Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another MindJet live webinar. Before we get started, I'd really like to just run a quick sound check with you all. So, if you can hear me and it's coming across nice and clear, as you can see here, if you could just raise your hand in the webinar control panel, and if I can see a good show of hands, then I'll know you can hear me and at least somewhat understand what I'm saying. Okay, good. I'm seeing a good number of hands go up. Excellent. All right. So, okay, I'd like to first of all introduce myself. My name is Aaron Rodericks. You may detect a slight accent, and that's because I'm from the UK. I'm the Customer Success Manager for the WEMEA region. That's the Western Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And I'm here really just to facilitate a webinar today for my esteemed colleague, Kyle McFarlane. He's our MindManager expert. So with that, I'm going to step out of your way and hand the presentation over to Kyle. Kyle, are you ready?
I'm ready. You hear me okay, Aaron?
I can hear you okay. That's great. So if I can, that means they all can. Make a presenter.
Thank you.
Let's see if I can fix. Okay, so I'm going to make you the presenter now.
Okay.
And hopefully we'll see your screen shortly.
Yep. Let me know if you can see it okay if I move my mouse around.
Okay. Yep. I'm seeing something all right.
Okay. Perfect.
Okay.
All right. Welcome to, it's actually, bear with me, the first time I presented from our new HTML5 export format, which we have in front of us right now. So welcome to the MindManager for Enterprise 2017.1 webinar. Now, I want to make you aware up front, this module pertains to MindManager and MindManager for Enterprise for Windows in particular. So just keep in mind, we're just talking about the Windows product today. And we'll be talking about SharePoint some as well. Now, I guess I mentioned it a second ago, but FYI, I'm actually presenting in an HTML5 export, and that's something we're featuring heavily with this release 2017. Gives you a beautiful export that just about anybody can use on any kind of system. Now, I realize, as ever, I'm going to show you a lot pretty quickly here today. Have full peace of mind that, as ever, we'll upload the video to YouTube. You'll be able to watch the video later on, pause, rewind, fast forward if you actually want to go through and practice some of the things you see here today. And if you've been on a webinar with me before, you know my bias can sometimes be to go a little fast, so I'll trust that you'll type into the chat and let me know if I need to slow down on some topics, and you'll let us know, too, if you have some questions. So the problem as it stands today and that we'll be addressing is, in this world, there's a lack of easy-to-use and robust project management tools. Note that I've made the "and" very large right there. That's because you can find easy-to-use project management tools and you can find robust project management tools, but it is very rare to have both at once. Further, it's often difficult to roll up projects into a dashboard, and historically either in MindManager or other pieces of software. And then further, we're often confined to linear work that's not really conducive to solving complex situations in a team environment. So on to the solution then. What I'll be showing you today is robust and easy to use flexible project management in the form of our new product in MindManager for Enterprise, Gantt Pro. Also, a quick and easy way to roll up maps and projects. And finally, an easy, almost effortless ability to visualize and collaborate on complex projects and situations in SharePoint. Okay. Now, a quick definition that I like of what MindManager for Enterprise is. MindManager for Enterprise offers powerful capabilities for coordinating projects and sharing knowledge across your organization. Okay? And you'll be seeing that evidenced all throughout the webinar today. Now, a quick note on what came in with MindManager 2017 for desktop, because we're talking about the 0.1 edition of it today. First off, enhanced visuals and mapping. So we came in with the new timelines view, enhancements to more easily create diagrams, updated images and templates, and then sharing capabilities, a consistent file management interface, and then universal file export as well. And then further, and we'll definitely be looking at even greater project management capabilities today, Zapier integration and a critical path feature within the software. Let me see if I can right-click that right there. So I'm going to copy this link address, and I'm going to paste this into the chat So if you're wanting to go back and watch the original webinar on what came in generally with MindManager 2017, let me see if I can. Tell you what, Aaron, if you don't mind, I don't know if I pasted this in for everybody, but there's the link if you don't mind just sharing that with everybody on the webinar.
Sure. Okay, I can see it there. Let me just.
Perfect. Greatly appreciate it. My multitasking while I deliver is probably not completely legendary. Okay. So if you've been on a webinar with me before, you know I like to keep the introductions pretty short and sweet. So with that, I think we can jump right into our content. We'll start to talk about MindManager for Enterprise 2017. Now, first off, let me center the map we have in front of us right now. Oops. Okay, so we've got the map in the center of the screen. I want to mention to you that new in 2017.1, we have support for high DPI displays. Now, I can't really show it to you because it's plain fixed, but in previous editions of MindManager, my quick access toolbar icons up here could often be a little bit on the scrambled side, and now you can see they appear here perfectly. So I myself am greatly benefiting from that update and I'm very grateful to the development team on that front. The second major display item that's been remedied here in 2017.1, and how much this means to you will have a lot to do with how much time you've spent in right-facing maps. Let me make a new one right now real fast. So I'm going to create this decision-making map here and then create a bunch of children. And I can define the problem for you because when I show it to you, it's just going to be plain solved. I can define the problem for you before I show the solution. Historically, when you're using right-facing map in MindManager, which is a pretty popular format, I should add, MindManager would constantly try to put the central topic in the center of the map, just like it does in regular maps. And that's all well and good usually, but the problem is in right-facing map, as is evidenced by the quick example I created for you right here, our content is naturally off to the right-hand side of the screen. You know, Aaron, I got a little message coming up on the Gotowebinar panel that we might have network difficulties. Are you still seeing and hearing what I do okay, or?
I am. I can see and hear everything perfectly. I believe sometimes it's come up as warnings, but if anybody else is experiencing any issues, please feel free to raise them in questions or in the chat, and I'll see if there's something I can do about that.
Perfect. I appreciate that. Yeah, so what it would do is it would constantly try to optimize the central topic to be in the center, but of course you lose a lot of your content off to the right-hand side here when you do that. So in an ideal world, you'd really want the central topic to flow off to the left here. Well, let me close this for you now and show you what it looks like when I open it up in 2017.1. So I'll simply open up that decision-making map, and you can see that MindManager automatically slotted the map much further over to the left, so it's maximizing our screen real estate now. So like I said, if you use right-hand maps a lot, that's a big deal because it was often a knife fight to get it centered on screen how you'd like it before, so fully remedied. Okay, and next, I want to make you aware that the share button has been enhanced from 2017 to 2017.1. And by the way, the DPI, the right-hand maps, and then the share button that I'm showing you right now, these pertain to both the regular desktop edition of MindManager and MindManager for Enterprise. I should mention that. And if I click on the drop-down for the share button now, you can see that I get a number of options here, whereas before, it would just take the map itself and put it into our MindJet Cloud beta. So you now get options here as well. Okay, so there's some low-hanging fruit, interface, and just general quality of life enhancements that have been made to 2017.1. Aaron, I'll pause for a second. Are there any questions I should address so far?
Actually, yes. I was just about to. What I'll do is I'll sort of try and address the questions as we go. However, we do have a request. Can you show the right alignment once more? It was just being missed read briefly. So if we could just see that again.
Absolutely. So the main thing is historically MindManager would attempt to put your map in the center of the screen, including right maps, which means you're losing the screen real estate over here because it's just blank space, nothing's being done with it. But new in 2017.1, both MindManager for Desktop and MindManager for Enterprise, if I open up this decision-making map now, it's going to automatically move the central topic over to the left-hand side here, and it's going to try to keep that as the focal point on screen. So just much better usage of your screen real estate. Aaron, does that you think sufficiently answer the user question?
I believe it does. I think we're good. I'd just like to, if I haven't already mentioned it, just wanted to take this moment to say I'll be looking over the questions, but we will sort of have a Q&A session towards the end of the webinar where I'll be able to address ones that I can't address as we go along.
Perfect. Yeah, okay. Full disclosure, sometimes when I throw up, if anybody has any questions, it's my coffee or water break. So I'm creating a little bit of space there to take a sip. Okay, so that's that's some of the interface and, just like I said, quality of life enhancements in MindManager 2017. Now we're going to talk about some MindManager for Enterprise specific items here. So I'm going to pan back over to my main project example map that I'll be working in here today. And we'll talk now about, oh, I do love this too, Gantt Pro. So if I come up to the task ribbon bar up here, we can now see that I have this button here for Gantt Pro. And I'm going to open it up, and then I'll give you a little bit of background on it. So I click on it here. Come on. There we go. So I click on Gantt Pro here to open it up, and we see that it pops up in a new window. Now, if it did nothing more than just pop up in a new window, you could send me home happy at that point, because I've always personally had the desire in MindManager to be able to have the Gantt chart on its own separate screen. Now, obviously, we're on the same monitor now because it's a webinar, but imagine that I put this on a side monitor to the left or the right. It gives me a lot more freedom and flexibility to work with my Gantt chart here. And I'll be minimizing and maximizing some as we go here. And I'll put the project on screen as well so you can see it there. Now, a few upfront things that I want you to be aware of in Gantt Pro. It's actually off by default. So an admin would need to turn on the add-in Gantt Pro. Second, and this is really critical, with all the options set to the factory default, you can click on the drop-down here and you can find the options. With all the options set to factory defaults, Gantt Pro's behavior is as close as possible to the built-in Gantt charting feature in MindManager. So what that means for you on a real-world basis, and this is key for me too, is that Gantt Pro is going to take advantage of the inborn functionality of MindManager. So day in and day out, what that means is you can use a map marked up with Gantt Pro in the standard version of MindManager, and vice versa. A map marked up with the standard version of MindManager can also then be used in Gantt Pro. So if you've been working for a lot of years on your project planning in MindManager, rest assured you'll be able to use it in a new product. And if you're on the desktop and need to go into Gantt Pro, or excuse me, Gantt Pro and need to go into the desktop, you're good there too. And then the next thing that you want to be aware of in Gantt Pro is that we can have multiple tabs open within Gantt Pro once. So I've got a Project 2 map here that we'll be using for some of our examples today. And if I want to see that in Gantt Pro, I can have that open as well. So now I can toggle back and forth. Whoops. I can toggle back and forth between my different project plans here. Okay. So let's talk now about some different means of refining a project. Now, I'm not going to create a project from scratch today. We have previous webinars that you can refer to for that. It just wouldn't be time conducive. But I do want to show you some of the different and cool new techniques for enhancing your project plan. So first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a summary at a point that I desire within my project plan. Now, historically, if you hit the roll-up button in MindManager, it automatically decides where those summary points are. But now in Gantt Pro, I can come up here, hit Make Summary, and it will automatically create it at whatever level I want, with the added advantage of I can still toggle Task 4 as complete as I want right here. And you see that blue bar filling in right here. And then while I'm at it, I'll select Subproject 2, Subproject 1, and Project 1 just by holding down Control. And I'll click on Make Summary. So I've now, in many respects, affected what a task roll-up would historically do for us. Now, this is one of my favorite workflow enhancements here. Historically, if you wanted to establish a dependency between tasks, you had to select a few things using Control and then right-click and add a dependency. What I can do now, let me zoom in just a little bit here, and let's see if I can't just bias a little bit more screen real estate, is let's say I wanted Task 4A to be dependent upon task 3 up here. And you can clearly see there's no arrow connecting them right now. What I can actually do is I can take the destination task, drag it up onto the source task, release it, and it will automatically, we see it automatically created an arrow now between task 3 and task 4A. And I would also say, note the critical path that we saw up here there as well. Let me zoom to fit here, another very cool feature, by the way. And if I zoom to fit, we can now see some red lines connecting these arrows here, and that denotes critical path. And if you're not familiar with critical path highlights the longest path of planned activities in a project to help managers focus on tasks that might potentially delay the project. So, for example, if a critical task is delayed for a day, the entire project will be delayed for a day. So it's that line of tasks that has to occur in the desired sequence, or it's probably going to delay your project plan. Okay, so now I'm actually going to show you something that this is so cool because historically this could trip you up if you didn't watch out for it. Let's say task 4B right here. And this one's assigned to Britney Spears, task 4B. You notice that when I select it here, it selects whichever item in the map as well. So I select task 4B here. Now if I hit the delete key, notice that it's removed from the Gantt chart. It actually is not gone from the map. It just took the start and due date out. And the start and due date, if you recall, is what is required for an item to show up in the Gantt chart and MindManager Gantt functionality to begin with. And that's the same as in regular Gantt or Gantt Pro. Now, actually, we want some dates on that, so I'll move them back on here. And all is well in the world. We've got task 4B again here, and I'll make it a little longer of a task as well. Next. And this one's really fun if you tend to clutter up your project plans with little, maybe self-focused tasks that you wouldn't want to be in an actual report or output. Let's say I decide that I want to be generous and pick up Chipotle for the team. By the way, in the little town of Ashland, Ohio I live in here, we are finally getting a Chipotle in May of 2017. So it's proof that if you believe hard enough, dreams do come true. But nevertheless, let's say that I want to pick up my Chipotle, and it's overdue because I should always be doing that. So I want to pick up Chipotle then, come over here to task info, and I'll put my own name on it. So that task is assigned to me, and we can see pick up Chipotle up here. Now our problem is in Gantt Pro, and this is a blessing here, backhanded right now, but we'll fix it in a second. There's a lot of great options here for exporting and creating reports, images, so you can really have a lot of power to get your information out of Gantt Pro. But the thing is we may not want management to see my pick up Chipotle task. So now, easily remedied, with that task selected, I'll simply select exclude from chart, and we see that it takes it off of the chart, and we have this little exclude from Gantt icon on it now. And if I need to toggle it, easily done, and I'll go ahead and leave it excluded right now. Okay, so there's some basic ways of working with your project in Gantt Pro. Now I'm going to give you a little bit more explanation, and then we'll take a look at Gantt Pro from a more maximized perspective after that. So I do quickly want to mention here, because you may have noticed these icons here in Start in Gantt Pro, that much like what you're used to seeing, if you see this red circle right here, that lets us know that a task is at risk or past due. Now, if you're wondering how these other icons here correspond to the priority icons in MindManager, I'll tell you now. This exclamation mark here on task 1 corresponds to priority 1. The upward-facing red arrow here on task 2, see it highlighted over here, that corresponds to priority 2. Now, it's the level 3 one you got to watch for, because if a task is denoted level 3, it just won't have any icon. And then for a level 4 task right here, you're going to see a bottom right blue facing arrow, and then finally a downward facing blue arrow on task 4A here. That'll correspond to priority 5. So just be aware of how the icons are corresponding to the symbology you see over here within your Gantt chart. Now I'm going to expand this to full screen, and we'll take a look at some of the deeper stuff in here. So I first want to point out to you, and you've seen me do some of it so far, we've greatly beefed up your ability to simply move around in your Gantt chart and get where you want to go. So I can, of course, zoom out, I can zoom in if I want to fit it to screen, easily done here, and I'm going to get us a little bit more real estate over here while I'm at it as well. And by the way, much like Excel, you can double-click these here and it'll maximize it out. So that's nice and convenient. And then we also have, and this is a big one for me, especially if your project plan gets large, we have a Go To option here. So if I select Go To, perhaps I want to go to today, select that, and it brings me right here. This red bar represents today. And if I want to go to, say, the start of the project, click on Go To, Start a Project, takes me right to it. On the left-hand side here, it's this lined blue line. And then if I want to go to the end of the project, very similar, it'll take me to the right line here. So a lot easier to get around and drive around in your project plan here. Even further, we now have a resource view contained. So if I click on the resource chart here, let me maximize that out a little bit, get a little bit more real estate here. We can now see our project plan by resource. So for instance, I've got Bob Barker here with a few tasks, task 1, task 3, task 4A. And if I look at task 1 here, that takes place, I think, about a week long or so. Yeah, it's about a week's worth of tasks there. We can see that Bob is only being used at 50% utilization here. And so the colorization of Bob Barker's allocation here, I guess you call it, is light green. So let me show you what happens now if I come back into the Gantt chart and change that resource loading to 100%. So I'm going to right-click on Bob Barker in the map here, go to load. A lot of people don't know about this, by the way, so it's a good little pro tip to be aware of here. I'm going to change the load to 100% and watch what happens to that green shading right there. We see it now became blue, and Bob Barker is now fully allocated. So again, just as ever, you're going to have loud visual indicators in MindManager and Gantt Pro letting you know the status of a resource. Now, be aware that Move Project is here, as you would expect it to be. You can change the start date. And something that is new is the end date, though, as well. And I'll do that here in just a second. But the real big thing you want to be aware of that's new here is this Solve button. And what Solve does is it tries to achieve, when you click the button, the earliest finish date with no overloaded resources. It's going to try to make sure you have no already overdue tasks and a minimum slack time between your tasks. So let me mess the project plan up a little bit here so it's a more compelling example. So I am going to drag task 4 over a little bit. I'll drag task 3 over a little bit as well. And you can see that I'm, by the way, if I just click and hold there too, I can drag. So again, very convenient here. I wanted a little more slack time. By the way, you can click on the summary elbows too and drag that way. And I'm going to then go back into the map here, and I'm going to pick on the poor Roadrunner here with a new task, task 5, give it the same dates and the same ownership as task 4. So remember I mentioned no overloaded resources. Right now the Roadrunner is being highly utilized in this week 4 here in January via both task 4 and task 5. So when I hit the Solve button, pay special attention to these 2 Roadrunner tasks right here and to the slack time contained between the subprojects and the tasks. So without further ado, let me hit the Solve button, and there we go. It whittled out the slack time, and it moved the Roadrunner task 5 back here as far as it could, and the Roadrunner is no longer overutilized within that time frame here. Now, as our project stands right now, we're going to finish up sometime in, looks like week 3 of January here. Let's say we'd rather just be done with this before the holidays. I did mention, too, that I can move the project, and start date's been there for a while, but I can now change the end date as well. So it's probably going to create a lot of bloody red on my plan here for overdue items. But nevertheless, I want to be done on the 23rd of December 2016. I'm going to hit OK. And there we go. It moves us back. We've got a lot of other overdue items here. But we can now see that this last task here, task 4B, is going to finish on 12/23/2016. So if you want to, you can now easily change the end date of the project plan just as easily as you could always change the start date. And I do want you to remember as well that how it's going to look when you fill in a task. So if I click here on task 1, I'm going to make that about 100% complete. And that's how it'll look when you complete some items. Okay. Now, a couple of other things that you want to be aware of within Gantt Pro here, like I mentioned before, is that ability to export and take things out of your project plan here with a great deal of ease. So I'm going to give you the example that right now I am filling out a report in Microsoft Word. Let me pan that over a little. I'm filling out a report in Microsoft Word, and I want to get some key items out of my Gantt chart into Microsoft Word. I'm going to click on the drop-down for export right here, export images, and then I'll select chart only, copy it to the clipboard. I'm going to do this kind of randomly just so you can get an idea of how things are looking here. I can resize that if I want, export images, and this time I'll do grid and chart, copy it to the clipboard. So you can just see how quickly and easily I'm getting high-quality images out of Gantt Pro, and I could put this in a PowerPoint as well, a spreadsheet. I mean, it's just an image at that point, so do as you like with it. And then two, if I click on export, and this is not to be minimized, I can also come down here to reports, and I can even say save as file, and that's going to give me a CSV for my report. So I'm going to do a milestone save right here, and yeah, there's only 2 milestones in there, and I think they're both outstanding currently. So yeah, we got one of them that's overdue as well. But the main thing is you can get a lot of high-quality reporting items out of Gantt Pro and into the necessary format. But that's not all. We also have the ability to print, and I want to really drive home the point, too, that when you print here, resize that one more time here, when I print here, I can use my filtering to affect a different kind of reporting as well. So I'm going to come up to View in MindManager, and wow, I don't have too much real estate here. I do like that feature in Windows 10, though, that ability to slide both at once. I'm going to right-click on my Priority 1 item here, and I'm going to change this to be, let's say, 3/4 done. I'm going to right-click on Priority 1 here, do a quick filter, and say Show Topics with this marker. And notice the Gantt chart was affected by my filtering. So I can really start to rig this via priority, or I could filter on resource as well. I'll actually do that in just a second here so you can see it. And then, of course, if I wanted to hit export images, and I'll say copy to clipboard again, and that Word file pop up there, and I could say report for P1, paste it in there, and there's my one priority 1 item. It was redundant. There's my single priority 1 item there that I'm reporting on. So again, and I know I'm doing it pretty quickly, and it's a little on the generic side, but hopefully you can see in what I'm showing you how you might use Gantt Pro to better capture your projects, work on your projects, and then report on them as well. So I'll remove this filter here and then show it to you from a different flavor. If I went over to the resource chart view, and I seem to have a lot of Bob Barker in this map, so I'll right-click on Bob, quick filter, show topics with this marker, and you can see I whittled down to only those items there that are affected by Bob Barker here. And you see the Roadrunner in here because the Roadrunner is actually the parent owner here, so you might almost be in an accountable, responsible scenario at that point if you're familiar with RACI or RACIC or the trillion variations of it that exist in this world. But hopefully you've seen some real powerful things here. And again, if I went to print, and I said print preview, single page is fine. You can see that we're just seeing that filtered version of Bob Barker in here. Maybe make it 75% to look a little better. Okay, so I know I've shown you a lot pretty quickly here today. Today is a webinar where we're kind of racing the clock the whole time. Let me just pause for a second. Aaron, is there anything that shouldn't wait till the end that I should cover before I go on?
I think most things we can wait till the end.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're okay so far.
Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I hit my Save All button right here. I'm going to maximize MindManager back out. I'll close Gantt Pro for the moment and remove my filter. And now what I'm going to show you, and this has been something I've been hoping for the longest time. It's near and dear to my heart. I'm grateful to have it. Probably work on it more over the holidays than I should, is the ability to roll up topics from disparate maps into a dashboard map. So the hypothetical that I'm going to give you today, and I think it's a good one, is I've got this flowchart that I've created in MindManager. By the way, if you're not aware, you can do flowcharts in MindManager. I've got this product process 1 here, and I'm going to pretend that each of my 2 project maps that I have open right now are individual instances of this process being executed. And then I've got a couple of topics here that represent projects 1 and 2. Well, the problem has been for a long time, that's all well and good, but how do I see anything about what's actually going on in projects 1 and 2 in my map here? Well, it's remedied now. And I'm going to use it in today's case to show you a brief project portfolio, but you could also use it to roll up a cost or other calculated fields. A lot of power here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select project 1, come up to advanced, excuse me, click on map rollup, and I'm going to select create new map rollup. Now, by the way, this is included in regular MindManager for desktop, but in Spirit, it's really more a part of the MindManager for Enterprise portfolio. So I'm going to select Create New Map Rollup, and I'll navigate to the location on my computer where the file's stored. So I'll pick my first project map here and hit OK. Now I'll select Project 1 and OK. All right. And we're now syncing to this map. Now one thing though, in this case it's probably going to benefit us more to come over here to Task Info and roll it up so we can see the overall status of the project plan here. Whoops, didn't mean to hit that. Okay, and then if I come back up to here, right-click and refresh it, I can now see that this is a quarter done. And if I were to come back over to here and complete, let's say, a few items, so I'll say task 1's done, task 2's done, so the project's half done now. Watch what happens here. I can just right-click the background, say refresh all topics, and we can now see that this is half done. But to really drive the value home, I need to link one more project plan in. So with project 2, I'm going to do the same thing, create a new map rollup, and I'll link to my second project map here, find the topic, project 2, hit OK, and do the same thing over here. And on this one, I'm going to make the progress even more so. So this project actually timeline-wise took place earlier, so I am going to then roll it up as well. Come back to my dashboard, right-click the background and refresh, and we can see that this one's nearly done. Now, do be aware that right now it's set to only show us the topic only, but I can show the topic and the branch too if I want to here. So we can see all those, and then if I go to Design, Layout, make it an org chart here, flip back over to Project 2, and I'll complete, let me complete these items down here. Become kind of the mayor of Happy World right now, haven't I? Just wrecking the project, completing everything with ultimate gusto. And then I come back over to here and kind of watch what happens down here in these branches. And if I just right-click the background, refresh all topics, everything's done. Like I said, I'm the mayor of Happy World. But the important thing I wanted you to see is we are now viewing individual project instances of this process being carried out. So hopefully you can see some application for that in your current and future work. Okay, so yeah, well, I'm racing for the clock a little bit right now. So we're going to jump into the SharePoint integration now, the MindManager for Enterprise Specific SharePoint integration in 2017.1 here. Okay, so let me put this on screen for you here. For those of you who are into SharePoint, I do want to mention what it is it's a viewer application that you can install on your SharePoint sites, and then there are multiple means of creating queries and bringing items into your map from the MindManager desktop as well. So you're aware of the SharePoint authentication that's supported, Windows NTLM authentication, forms-based, and here's the new ones, Office 365, the Azure, ADFS, and on-premise authentication, and then finally the MFA authentication. So did want you to be aware of that. And with that in mind, I'm going to take you through a bit of a day in the life here. So right now, the two primary maps that you've seen me work with are this Product Process 1 and this Prestige Management map right here. So I'm actually going to close those maps out, and I'm going to close the others as well. And I'm going to bring my SharePoint site on screen right here. And I'm going to hit the Upload button. I'm going to upload some files from my computer. And I'm going to select Prestige Management Demo 1. And then I'm going to select Product Process 1 as well. Hit the Open button. We can see easily that those items are uploading there. So we've now got our maps contained here. And the first thing I want to show you is that I can easily use these as navigation and viewability within SharePoint. So I'm going to click on the dots there and select View in Browser. And give it just a second. It's going to pop up a new tab here. And we will be able to see our map in glorious color, near perfect parity with the original map. I can focus on topics, zoom out and in, but for now, let me just jump back over to our Product Process 1 here, and I'm going to view that in browser as well. Historically, you weren't able to easily view our flowcharts in SharePoint, and you now have that ability, as you're about to see. It's going to give you a beautiful rendition of our flowchart here, and there's our Product Process 1 that we've been looking at. Okay. Next, what I want to do is I'm going to pick on this Prestige Demo 1 map more that we've been working in, and I'm going to select that I want to open it in MindManager. So I'm going to work with this map that's stored in SharePoint on my MindManager desktop. So this gives us a great collaborative ability here. Okay, so it's going to open read-only. Let me give myself a little added real estate here. It's going to open read-only. I'm going to check it out and hit OK here. And I'm going to do some various things to this map, and then I'm going to check it back in, and we'll see how it looks within our SharePoint site when I'm done here. Okay, so first, I want you to see that you can easily query into your SharePoint site. I'll come to Advanced, click on SharePoint. I'm going to query list items here. Now, granted, I haven't added too much up here into the site, but I think you'll see the potentiality of it. Query a documents list. Come into Documents right here, and I'm just going to say created by myself so we don't get a whole cluster here. I'll finish that out, and I should at least get my one SharePoint site, and there's my Kyle McFarland demo area right there. So now I've got a link to that, and we'll see how this is going to provide us navigation here in just a moment. Now next, that's more on the knowledge management tip. Next I'm going to show you how I can create a task in SharePoint and then bring it down into my MindManager environment. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to click on the New Task button over in SharePoint. Okay, and maybe I need to give myself a little more real estate here now. Okay, and we'll say Task Dark Blue. Start date of today, for simplicity's sake, we'll make it due today as well. I'm going to assign it to myself, show more. I'm going to give it a category here, and I'm going to say Project Lilliput. I think that's from literature if I remember correctly. Yeah, Lilliputians. I've got Project Lilliput there. Okay, so I've got my task dark blue contained here, and then the question we often get is, okay, well I've created task dark blue, and I want that to actually be a part of my project plan over here. How do I do that? Well, I'll show you now. I'm going to select Project Management here, and I'm going to again run a query. So I'm going to query my SharePoint list items, tasks, and that's where my tasks are right now. And I'm going to say assign to myself, again, so I don't get too much. Hit Finish. And I'm going to get a number of tasks here. And there's my task dark blue. So I'm going to select task dark blue, select task lean as well, hit Control X's and xylophone to cut them, and I can delete this query here if I want or leave it and refresh it later. That's up to me. I'm actually going to delete it now just to keep my map a little cleaner. And then I'm going to paste those items into task 4 right here. There's task lean and task dark blue. And what's really cool too, any changes that I make go up to SharePoint in the blink of an eye. So if I make task lean 75% complete, right-click and make task blue half done. And look at task blue over here, doesn't show anything yet. And task lean shows 50. So let me refresh this now. We can easily see task dark blue is 50% now, and lean is 75%. Okay, so that's how you can quickly and easily bring tasks from your SharePoint site into your map. But let's flip it around for a second and let's say that we want to create a new task here. So I'm going to make task burgundy right here. And I am going to then come into my index, and I can even pick from my resources here. My SharePoint resources are now synced into the index here in this map. So I'll assign myself to it, look in categories, and I can see Project Lilliput. I'll add that to it, and I'll just grab some dates from task 5 here. And what's really cool, I can even go to task info here and put a dependency there real fast. Yeah, it's right there. I guess the arrow's a little on the side. There we go. And then I'm going to right-click on Task Burgundy, go to Send Topic To, send item to SharePoint. There's my site. Send it to Workflow Tasks. Okay, minimize that. And then if I refresh this right here, I'll be able to see Task Burgundy. And there it is. So easy to go back and forth between these items here. And one of the biggest takeaways then that I want you to have is once I'm done working in this map, I'm going to go ahead and minimize it here, hit the Save button, and then I'm going to close it, check it in now, hit OK. I could have left some notes about the versioning, but oh, I'm a time-poor man at the moment, so I need to keep moving along. And then I'm going to come back up here, and remember, this great viewable version that's going to give us navigation beyond the hierarchy in SharePoint. I'm going to hit the refresh button now, and it's going to pull on the latest saved check-in version of that map. And now I can see over here under Knowledge Management, there's my demo area item, and if I come over here to Project Management, let me focus on this. We can see Task Burgundy down here, Task Dark Blue, Task Lean. So it's going to give us the latest status of our project plan, and I didn't get into this too far, but it's also going to give us navigation beyond the hierarchy in SharePoint. So if I follow this link, it'll easily take me right over to the items. So there's my demo area. I can also, if I wanted to follow up on any of those tasks, Task Burgundy, click on the link, and it'll take me right in right there. Okay, so that is our integration with SharePoint. It's new, it's better than ever. Like I said, you've got near perfect parity, whether it's flowcharts or regular maps here. And this one getting away from me just a touch here. Let me center the map there. That looks good. And you can see our flowcharts as well. So it's just going to give you a great rendition of your saved maps up in your SharePoint site. And this is taking advantage of the same back-end technology as our HTML5 exporting. So one last thing I want to mention to you here before we get into our Q&A segment is new in 2017.1. I can't show it to you right now, but I can tell you about it. If I come into, let me open any map up here. If I come into File and Info, I now have the ability to compress all images for the web. And what that means is if you have one of those maps where you've got 75, 100 megabytes worth of images in it, and you need to compress that down to 2 or 3 megabytes or 5 megabytes so that you can put it in the web, or you can send it to somebody in email without using a special site to send it, compress all images for web is going to be your best friend. So in any map, you can come up here to Info, compress all images for web. It's going to say this action can result in loss of image quality when zooming or resizing. You're sure you want to continue. I'll hit OK, and that's all it takes. So be aware of that feature as well. So before we get into Q&A, let me just mention, I hope you've seen today how easy it is to see MindManager better than ever with enhanced display support, plan and manage more advanced projects with Gantt Pro, collaborate more powerfully than ever with our updated SharePoint integration, and of course, export your maps in such a way that enables manageable file size and a near perfect parity with your original map. So with that, please feel free to type in your thoughts, your reactions into the panel, and we can open it up to a Q&A now. And thank you for attending, of course.
Excellent. Thanks very much. Great job, Kyle. Thanks for that, and excellent time management, I must say. Managed to get quite a lot in there. I don't know if you can see it. Can you see the questions panel in Gotowebinar?
Well, let me see if there's some way that I can see that. Right now, all I see is our chat back and forth.
Okay, there should be a...
Yeah, that's actually all I see. Maybe there's some button I need to hit.
Okay, well, I can send you some questions because there's been quite a few. I'm just trying to see which ones we'll be able to sort of address now. Let's take a look.
Sure.
Okay. Okay, so can you use this to set up a recurring schedule? Okay, I need a little context on that one. But okay, so we've got a question about using it with a whiteboard infrastructure. Steve, could you maybe elaborate on that a little bit? Just checking to see if anything comes up here.
Sure.
Okay, in the meantime, when will there be documentation for SharePoint Server App? Okay, do you know that one, or because I can tell you that we don't have a set deadline for that, at least on our side of the pond yet, for the documentation.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to it for the U.S. side either. I will say very emphatically, hopefully extremely soon.
Okay, same for our side of the pond. So that's I think the correct one. Is version 17.1 available now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Should be able to go to Help, check for updates, and you'll find 17.1. See if I can. I'll show you the window that popped up too when I did that. Now, product ID is not recognized. Well, there's a great example. In any event, though, usually it would just say your version, whether or not there's an update or not there.
Will we be getting a copy of these MindJet files after the webinar? That's a pretty good question.
You know what? To the user that asked the question, let us know which maps you saw today that you're wanting to have. We certainly have no problem with sending them over to you. That's no problem at all.
Okay.
The main thing is just an email address and how to get them to you.
Sure. Okay. Just scrolling through a few of them. I did manage to answer a few, but I thought I'd leave some till the end because some of them were quite good.
Sure.
What version of MindManager is Gantt Pro available with? Oh, I think I answered that one. 17.1 for that one. Can you show... Mm-hmm. Okay, this sounds like a PM-specific one. Can you show funding burn rate with a Gantt chart?
It is not going to show you that.
Okay.
You might, of your own accord, come into advanced, and you could build some formulas running through the topics. But as it stands right now, no, it's not. It's not pre-set up to do that for you. Just to give you a little glimpse, though, if I wanted to, I could hit an AutoCalc, set the total budget to the sum of the first budget property, currency, okay, and I'll give the budget here. So you can weave some math, if I can talk, weave some math in here if you like. Just hit F4 on that to isolate it. So yeah.
Okay, that's cool. Right, so here's another one regarding the roll-up, I believe. You mentioned you went to your map on the computer. Is there a version that gets saved, or does your computer need to be on to be accessed remotely? I think this is pertaining to when you accessed a map that you had stored on your computer.
Are you talking about, do you think the user is talking about the SharePoint stored maps or just a regular desktop map that I have?
I believe it was during the map roll-up, so in my mind that would be desktop maps.
Okay, yeah. These maps that I've been showing you here, other than the SharePoint store ones, were just regular maps saved on my desktop computer. And The Gantt Pro is just visualizing your map and applying certain metadata to it in the way it does. But when you hit the Save button, it saves the Gantt Pro information along with your map. So for instance, if I just hit the Save button right now, close this, and then reopen it, there was no separate save for Gantt Pro or anything like that, and you can still see all that Gantt Pro information in here. And then if I went to Tasks and hit Gantt Pro, there it is.
Okay. And I think sort of leading on from the similar question, is this how management would track progress of multiple projects real time, or would each manager have to send their project maps?
Well, it would depend upon the status of the sharing of the maps. So if your maps were, you could either, because the roll-up that I showed you is dependent upon locally stored maps or, like, say, a map drive in SharePoint. So you can't just roll up items that are stored up in, like, say, the SharePoint cloud I showed you. They would actually have to be mapped to your computer. But if they're mapped to your computer and you've got these, you've got the roll-ups triggered from here, if a manager were wanting at the end of the week to see the status of the project portfolio, they could simply come into here, and let me change this around a little. So just pretend I'm like a project manager, and I come in here, it's Thursday night, and I'm wanting to get headed home for the holidays, so I come in here and make all my changes. So now this one's, it's overall complete. I didn't want that, so let me fix that real fast. Okay, so yeah, this one's going to be like 93% complete now. And then pretend I now become the, I'm the, head of the project portfolio. I run that, and I want to see the overall status. I come into here, right-click, refresh all topics, and I can see there's that project one, and it's 93% complete. And you know what, since I'm Kyle, I'll even put my name on it right here. So I can see if I refresh now, Kyle McFarland's responsible for this one, and I'll make Bob Barker responsible for project 2, refresh these as well. So yeah, I mean, we're definitely giving you the ability now to roll multiple projects up to one consolidated dashboard map.
Okay. This is actually a recurring one. I think would be good. I'm using 17.1, but don't see how to turn on Gantt Pro.
Sure. Something I should mention is your license key has to be a MindManager for Enterprise license. So as long as it is a MindManager for Enterprise license, if you come here to File, Options, then come into Add-ins, and if I scroll down, I'll see Gantt Pro right there. That box needs to be checked. As long as Gantt Pro is checked, you hit OK, and you'll see Gantt Pro here.
Okay, cool. Let's see. What export options are there for Gantt Pro aside from CSV milestones?
I believe that is the only format right now that it does it in. Let me pop Gantt Pro up here. Okay. Oh, that's right. I finished everything up in here. So yeah, you can. So if I go, yeah, those are going to give you, like, if you save as file, that's going to be a PNG. And it's going to give you different file formats for the image right there. So that's a difference. But if I go to reports here, yeah, preview copy to clipboard, where it's going to be saved as file, the only option I've seen in here to date, Aaron, if you know something I don't, please tell me too, is I believe the only option in here is CSV as it stands now. If you have a request for something you don't see there, let us know. Gantt Pro will only get better over the days, weeks, months, and years here. So yeah, save as file. It's going to be CSV. Yeah, CSV is pretty much that's the big enchilada now.
I would echo the same sentiment. It's something we're quite sort of excited for, so it's something we will be developing and progressing as we go forward with quite some vigor, because it's a very popular use case for MindManager, and it's growing in popularity all the time.
Exactly, and I know today the one thing about it is we had a lot to show you is a little quick, so like I said, you'll have that YouTube video, but I cannot emphasize enough, you saw me using Gantt Pro very easily with 2 projects that I then rolled up into a dashboard map. I mean, it wasn't like I had to be some kind of professional programmer or whatever to do that. It was very quick and easy, off the shelf with MindManager for Enterprise. Everything you saw today, if you have MindManager for Enterprise, you can do and reproduce as well.
Cool. There's another question up here that has sort of piqued my interest. It says, as a former software developer, it says, has this been used for Agile project methodologies? I'd like to say that yes, it has, and in fact, I'm not sure if there was a stateside one, but in the UK we did a specific Agile project development webinar, which I've got you here recorded in the questions panel, so I'll be able to get a link to that to you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm making myself like a little Agile tracker map right now, saving it into here. Put my Agile tracker in. I'm going to have to close Gantt Pro out for a second. This is really on the fly, and then I've got myself a sprint template right here, so I'll delete that out. And I've got my backlog. So we'll say this is going to be sprint 1, and we'll say sprints for process 1 completed right here. So I'm going to say action 1 is done. So we'll give it a little bit of color and flavor here. So sprint 1 is half done right now as it stands. So then I'm going to come back over to my dashboard here, Agile Tracker, go to Advanced, Map Rollup, create a new rollup, go to my Agile Tracker map, go to my sprints for process 1 completed, and there it is. I mean, it's not elegant, but I also did it in like 45 seconds. So. It's something, right? Do some Agile tracking and go right back down to it here.
That's great.
And I can refresh it. I mean, keep in mind, you just refresh and you get the latest there. Looks like my progress went down, so I'm failing in my Agile plan right now, but nevertheless, we are tracking.
Stand up.
Yeah, exactly. I'll be sitting down in the corner. Other questions? Good questions too, by the way. These are fun ones.
Yeah, we're getting some quite a few here. But just so you know, we are creeping up in the last couple of minutes. So any that aren't answered in this webinar, we will either Kyle or myself will email you and respond to them because they are all recorded. So don't worry.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's see. Can I open existing Microsoft projects which already have been populated with dates, resources, etc. in MindManager?
Yeah, let me give you a 360 tour here. It sounded very Gilligan's Islandish. I'm going to go to File and Export, and I'm going to send it over to Microsoft Project. This is going to be quick, by the way, but you'll be able to do it later on. So I'm going to send it over to MS Project. And I'm going to only export topics, use task info, not skip tasks or mark as complete because it's only import-export. I want it to be a real artifact.
Sure.
Hit the export button here. And by the way, it's just going to make it a regular project file. It's not some special project file because I exported it from here. So I'm going to open it up in Project. And to make it a touch more compelling, let me remember that I completed task 4B right here. So then I'm going to save it, close it out. And then I'm going to say in MindManager, let's import the Microsoft project file. And I will bring that in. Like I said, it's just any other project file at this point. And it's very quick. And there it is. And if I take a moment, put it into breakdown structure format, there's that task 4B that Britney Spears was responsible for, completed right there. And if you really want the cheat code on it, just cut it out of here. Come back over to, which map was I in? Delete it from here, paste it into here. Kind of around the world very quickly at that point, but you can see that you can actually take the imported item and bring it back into the original project map. But the key thing to keep in mind is it's import-export. It's not synchronous back and forth.
Sure. No, but that's really great. Okay, cool. I think that sort of brings us up on time.
I suppose it does, yes.
So would you like to do the sign-off, or shall I bring it back for the sign-off?
Go ahead. I'd probably just say peace out if you left it up to me, so I will allow you to. My mind's much clunked now.
Absolutely nothing wrong with that. Okay. Let me just quickly share my screen. Okay. So now hopefully you can all see my screen. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I just wanted to say thank you very much for attending, and big thanks to Kyle. Thanks. Great demo. Excellent whirlwind tour. And yeah, you can always check us out on social media. We've got links here for our Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, etc. And if you haven't already, there's a free 30-day trial available on the website. And yeah, I've been Aaron Rodrigues, and it's been Carl McFarlane. Thank you very much.